Peace. Greetings to you all. What's going on, family? It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, AKA Mr. Just the Facts. Well, I wanted to go live today. I wanted to speak about this whole blame black men thing that the media is trying to set up for our people. I spoke on it during our last several live streams, and I just kind of wanted to get into it today so that more and more of our people, particularly our men, can understand what's going on and why it is going on. So hit the like button, family. Share this out. Try to have a little discussion today. I think that this attack is not just an attack on our men, but it is an overall attack on our family, our whole family unit. You know, shout out to everybody that's in the chat. I see y'all jumping in there. Peace, family. I want to start this thing off with the Jemele Hill tweet that I pulled up a couple episodes ago when we were talking about Ice Cube. And then we're going to get into that. We're going to get into some of that as well. Let's pull up this Jemele Hill tweet. All right. Make sure y'all can see that. Okay. I mean, you see it right there. I pulled this up during one of the broadcasts we did when we were touching on Ice Cube. No, not Ice Cube, excuse me. When I was talking about my debate with the brother who's an activist that rocks with Tamika Mallory by the name of my son. You know, I thought that what he was doing was being a proxy, vicarious, almost attack dog against our own men for not just white supremacy, but this liberal left-wing LGBTQ agenda that seeks to what's the word, neuter, quote unquote, black men, for lack of a better term, take our masculinity away from us. And in taking our masculinity away from us, one of the things that they try to do is steer us in directions that we don't want to go into. And I'm going to touch on a little bit of that today. So somebody said my son is an actor of it. Shout out, Nick. Shout out to the mods that's in the building. Let's read this Jemele Hill tweet. I have increasingly found that many black men just want better access to patriarchy. They don't actually want it dismantled. Now, you know, there's several ways that we can break down this particular quote, this tweet. I have increasingly found that many black men just want better access to patriarchy. This assumes that many black men have some access to this mythical patriarchy that Jemele Hill speaks of, that they have some access to it, but they don't have better access to it. They don't actually want it dismantled. She never defines what this patriarchy thing is, which is another of the LGBTQ. And this is not an attack on that group, but this is a confronting of that group and how they have been able to shape a particular narrative, specifically when it comes to our people, right? There was an instance maybe 2 years ago where Genuine, the R&B singer, he was on a British talk show. I see my brother Logic in the building. Shout out to my brother Logic. He was on a British talk show and they were having a discussion about, I think it was about male and female relationships. And there was a trans guy. There was a trans guy there who looked like a woman, a white woman. And as Genuine was talking, this man that converted himself into a woman was gazing dreamingly into Genuine's eyes, and then just basically leaned over and was like, I want to kiss you. Can I kiss you? Can I have a kiss? And Genuine was like, no, like I don't do that. The comments that came out after this particular incident was shaming Genuine because he didn't want to kiss this man who changed themselves to appear as a woman. If that was a man that was looking dreamingly into the eyes of a female and then said, oh, I want to kiss you on live TV, that man would have been derided, scorned. He would have been scorned and proverbially stoned to death by media of all sorts. That's toxic. Why would a man just want to kiss a woman like that? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please look that up. You can Google that, where Genuine basically got derided for rejecting this unwanted advance from this man who had the appearance of a woman. So ultimately, these people have become bullies. And if you do or say anything outside of their bully language, then it's something wrong with you. And this is why I confronted Myson on his post when he said black men don't protect black women. And it was a broad statement. It was a sweeping statement. It was a sweeping statement. And we know it was sweeping because what he told Nick Cannon was, I put myself in that category. Well, speak for yourself, bro. Speak for yourself. So I want to, let me stop sharing this. I want to go back to something because I want to put this thing into a perspective. I want to go back to the discussion with Ice Cube and Roland Martin for a minute, because I think that this is important. I want you all to listen up. Oh, hold on. I want you to hear this part, because this is the play here. Is get down or lay down with the Democratic liberal left-wing establishment. And the right wing, they're no better. They are, like Malcolm said, they are the wolves and the left wing are the foxes, each looking to just eat you up. So let's do this real quick. Let's play this. Listen up, family.
Hold on. I can tell you personally. No, hold up. You said before you the black vote. I just want to try to cut him off. I'm gonna let you finish. I just want to correct something. I met with the White House in 2018. They told me directly in 2018, we think we can get 20% black male support in the 2020.
All right, let me stop it right there. Let me stop it right there. So Roland Martin says that he went to the White House and he met with the Trump administration, something that they killed Ice Cube for doing. And he's going to give his reason in a few minutes. I'm going to click play and let it play out some. But he was told by the Trump administration that he believes that 20% of black male votes are going to go to Trump. They believe that they can get that amount from our men. So when you understand the history of Roland Martin, shucking and jiving with Hillary Clinton, and his whole history is just boule gatekeeper. I can't even say gatekeeper-ish, boule gatekeeper. His whole history. Then you understand why he wanted to bring Ice Cube back on. And he tries to ambush Ice Cube, for those familiar with, or not familiar with, rather, what we did on this particular live stream, or if you hadn't watched this particular interview with Ice Cube, because I couldn't even find it when I went back on YouTube. They wanted to ambush Cube so that he brings on Alicia Garza, one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, because they were going to use their bully pulpit to try to get us men who will think for ourselves, who can think for ourselves in line, which prompted Ice Cube to say in response to Alicia Garza that I'm not in nobody's line. Anyway, let's continue this.
So it didn't. They were fully aware of that.
Why'd you meet with him? Why'd you meet with him?
I'm a journalist.
Why'd you meet with him?
I'm a journalist.
What'd you meet with him to talk about?
I'm a journalist. I met with him to talk about public policy issues, to ask them those various
public
questions.
Policy issues, and the thing was to get 20% of the vote.
No, you're right.
Okay.
No, they said not 20% of the vote.
Did they think they was going to get that?
No, this is what they said. They said they believe they could get 20% of the black male vote, and they specifically said they were going on and economic policies.
Why did they think they can get 20% of the black male vote?
Excellent question.
Because they said they think that they can appeal to disaffected black men. They
he didn't answer the question.
Black women don't like them.
Why can they appeal to that demographic? Who's not appealing to that demographic? How can they swoop in and get it?
Who?
That should have been covered.
What do you mean?
This is what I'm asking. How can they?
Now he's playing dumb.
That's supposed to be covered.
Well, first of all, that's not the case because in 2012, between Obama and Romney, there was a 9-point gap between black men and black women who voted for Obama and Romney. In 2013,
he buck dancing.
That expanded to 13%.
He tried to buy him some time.
When you look at 2020, they believe that, we think there's an opportunity here for us to be able to appeal to black men on economic policies because they say black women can't stand it.
Well, it's not being done for black men in this country that the numbers growing.
Because first of all, because the difference between black men and black women, black men are more likely to be.
Why don't the
hold on.
See, he doesn't want to see. Roland Martin doesn't want to answer the question, so he's dragging it on. He's using basically points that are called non sequitur. They do not follow. They do not follow the question that Ice Cube is pressing him on. Why are black men why is that amount of black men disaffected voters in the very first place? Why? This brother said Ice Cube wrecked Roland Martin, period. That is a fact. Let me pull that up. So in valid course that he skipped 2016. That's right. You notice Roland Martin went back all the way to 2012. So you start looking at all of these different articles that start to come out, right? So let's pull. First, I want to pull this one up. First, let's pull this up from the New York Times. Let's run through this real quick. Let us run through this real quick. Trying to give a little political education, on not a little political education, a political education on the Be the Power platform to add on and reach out to those people that are not necessarily swayed by Democrats or the Republican Party. So let's go to this particular article right here in the New York Times. No, my bad. Not that. I pulled up the wrong thing. Hold on. Wrong thing. Okay. Black Americans have a message for Democrats. Not beating Trump is not enough. That headline in and of itself speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. Okay, so let's read this. Joe Biden wants to heal the soul of the country in this moment of protest and loss and win the White House. Simply telling people to vote in November may not help with either goal. I love this image. I used it as the thumbnail for this particular live stream. This young boy is holding up a sign that says, "We didn't come this far to only come this far." Because it seems like when we think we've come far, and we look up, and I made this analogy on the last live stream, I spoke about swimming in a vast ocean, and it looks like the island of dry land and salvation is right there. And we're swimming and swimming. And it seems like the more we swim towards what appears to be this nice island that's going to afford us fruit and food, nourishment, etc., it gets farther and farther away, and swimming makes you exhausted. So let's start reading from this article. Columbia, South Carolina. In an on-camera address after a week of destructive protests, this was published September 10, 2020, former Vice President Joseph R. Biden Jr. pleaded with his audience to imagine life for Black people in America. Imagine, he said, if every time your husband or son, wife or daughter left the house, you feared for their safety. Imagine the police called on you for sitting in Starbucks. It's interesting, because remember, when Joe Biden was pushing the 94 crime bill, these things weren't a concern of his. The American government helped flood the streets with crack cocaine. They did that. Joe Biden said, we don't care what the pre-existing conditions were that forced them to be these predators trying to make this money. We don't care about that. We don't care that we're the cause. It doesn't matter. We have to protect them from my family and your family so they won't knock my wife or mother upside the head, etc., etc. But now he's concerned. People ain't forget that. It's a record of it. These things have been pulled up. And it was brothers like myself who were affected by that 94 crime bill. It continues. The anger and frustration and the exhaustion, it's undeniable, he said. Yeah, it is. I spoke about that exhaustion. But the person that wrote the article says exhaustion for many Black Americans across the country. What a year this month has been. The coronavirus pandemic has continued to disproportionately kill Black people. And despite of high-profile killings in recent months in Georgia, Kentucky, and Minnesota, the latter two at the hands of the police led to widespread demonstrations nationwide. COVID killing us disproportionately. Why? Obama's Obamacare did what did it do for us? The coronavirus came and pulled back the curtain on the fake wizard that was Barack Obama, the fake wizard. Because if Obamacare was really this big thing, then it would have started to kick in for us when it needed to, when it was first implemented. But yet and still, we're the ones who disproportionately died from the coronavirus. That Obamacare ain't work for us. Like we have, let's call it what it is. It ain't work for us. Let me continue. Protests shook more than 36 cities on Saturday as crowds expressed outrage over the death of George Floyd, a Black security guard who was killed. No, it's talking about that particular moment. This was September 10th. Let me see. It says in Columbia, the city where Mr. Biden delivered his victory speech after the South Carolina primary just over 3 months ago, demonstrators on Saturday said they were demanding more than what it seemed like an election in November would deliver. Not only justice for the death of George Floyd, but change in political and economic power that would prevent the death of another Black person in police custody. Another brutal video going viral. This is what we put on the table. This is what we put on the table. How do we prevent this? Joe Biden just recently came out. I didn't hear him condemn the cop that killed the brother. He condemned the people that were protesting the killing of this young brother. And maybe I didn't hear his condemnation of that cop. But all I heard was him basically telling the protesters that this is wrong, which essentially says, so what, cops get killed? I mean, cops kill Black people. Didn't a lot of cops get killed under my and Barack Obama's presidency? Did we do a damn thing about it during those 8 years? No, we did not. It's too late. Biden can say you're not black if you won't vote for him. Trump couldn't have said that. And please, nobody get it confused. I am no Trump supporter, no Trump fan, no Trump anything of Trump at all, or that whole Republican Party. But this is the part that really, really caught me, right here in this article. It says, "I'm tired of coming out here," said Devon Moon, a 21-year-old Columbia resident, 21 years old, one of hundreds who participated in the peaceful protests in the city. "I'm tired of feeling forced to do all of this Devon Moon said. It dawned on Sierra Moore, 24, who attended the protests carrying a homemade sign that read, "No justice, no peace," that she and her grandmother had been protesting the same issues over the course of a century. She looked at the racially diverse group of thousands which gathered for a short program on the State House steps before leading a march to the local police station. Next to her was another sign, "Respect my existence or expect my resistance." "I just don't think that's how change happens," Ms. Moore said of voting. "They've been telling us to do that for so long, and we've done it, and look at everything that's still going on." So, of course, the article goes on to speak about, I got my brother Logic in the building. The article goes on to speak about these promises that were always given every election cycle. Go back and check out the podcast we did a few months ago when we were analyzing Joe Biden's black agenda and comparing it to Latinos. Speaking of Latinos, I want to go into another article. And brother Logic, if you want to jump in before I go into this, please do, brother.
Hey, peace, family. Peace, brother. I just wanted to slide in the show. I seen you going in. I'm doing some things, but I had to pop up and speak to this important issue. You covered some very powerful things just in the little bit of time that you've been on. And what we have to understand in this moment, right? We got to stop caring about how people are going to perceive what you're saying. Too many people are willing to compromise speaking on what's right because of how they think people are going to feel and react to it. That's one of the problems we have out here. People are scared to say what needs to be said because they think, oh, was that politically correct? Or is somebody going to get offended? No, you have to be bold enough and have courage enough for the truth and speak to it. And when we talking about the black family, you understand, I am so dedicated. And my devotion to the black family is uncompromising. And that is what I'm willing to die for, to the protection, to the restoration of the black family. You understand? So when you see these attacks, if you're not operating from that space, I don't know what you're really dedicated to. You have a female, Alicia Garza, right, who is in the midst of this. She was on that interview with Roland Martin, where they was trying to basically bully Ice Cube, but I thought the brother Ice Cube handled himself really, really well, right? Because they weren't coming with anything really sophisticated. They was coming with a lot of very, very easily seen through, very much so telegraphed. Like you could just see that the replies that they were going to have, because it's the same garbage that we've been getting day in and day out, year after year, right? Toe the party line, stay captured to the Democrats, stay captured to the Democrats. Don't operate as a citizen who has the responsibilities and duties of exercising civic action in this country and making sure things is right from what they see. He'd forget the fact that Ice Cube is a citizen and he should be doing advocacy the way his passion and his convictions lead him. Forget all that. You need to be rolling with us, even if he don't agree with y'all. Then they so hypocritical, they got mad at him for meeting with Trump. But then the then dude said he met with Trump. So how the hell is it a problem if Ice Cube met with Trump to talk about policy because he's the damn president, he's the person in power? It ain't our fault he's there, but he's there. You got to deal with what's in front of you. How in the hell is Ice Cube wrong for talking to him, but Roland Martin can talk to him?
That's right.
Doesn't make any sense. Then you got Alicia Garza. I have a big problem with Alicia Garza. Big problem. Because if any of y'all remember how the Black Lives Matter movement started, Black Lives Matter movement started by Black boys and men being put into the ground by police violence. You understand? By boys and men. You know, I hope the ancestors have accepted with love and power the sister Breonna Taylor and what's the sister that was in Texas? Sandra Bland.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been a historical ongoing of massive amounts of young Black men and Black boys being shot down cold in the street. That's what started Black Lives Matter. So then you get someone who's supposed to be the leader of a movement that is created on the bodies in the corpses of Black men that have been put into the ground, but you get her, right? These are people's sons. These are people's daughters. I mean, these are people's sons. These are people's grandsons, husbands, brothers that have been put into the ground unjustly. Then you get a woman who doesn't even care nothing about the Black family. Doesn't even care nothing about the Black family. She recognizes herself as a Jewish woman because her stepfather was Jewish. She's married to a transgender white, whatever they gender assignment that they done got. How is that leading a movement that's supposed to be about Black lives mattering? And they don't even matter to the person that's leading the movement.
That's right.
Y'all have to recognize garbage when you see it and call it out. You got to stop being scared of who's going to pull away from you because you're doing right. Because when you're doing right, that's going to happen. If you got a whole bunch of people around you, you got to already know part of what you're doing is wrong. Because the truth, it ain't a whole bunch of people over on the truth side. The truth side don't got a whole bunch of people. It don't come with a whole bunch of fame. It don't come with all of that. You understand? So if you want to do what's right, you got to understand that's going to be a lonely walk. If you want all the followers, then understand that you are already accepting selling yourself and your people out.
Facts. Brother Josh, you wanted to chime in? Oh, I think Brother Josh having some issues right now, but definitely my brother Logic came in and brought that fire as usual. I don't know if I think Josh is having some issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this other article that I wanted to pull up. Let me see. Which one is it? Is it this one? Yeah, here we go. Let's pull this one up. Okay, this is funny. This is from USA Today. It says, Black America will have no one else to blame if we do not seize this moment and vote. So here, this Mario A. Broussard, an opinion contributor, and I looked him up. He's one of those guys that's, you know, his bag is mixed with BIPOC, people of color, LGBTQ. It's not a specific focus on quote unquote Black people. He's everywhere. He's all over the place. And I'm not saying that you can't advocate for anybody else, but what we see is that usually when you do advocate for all of these other groups, our people are at the bottom rung. Again, we've had a brother express to us out of Colorado that he was working with the group. I don't want to say the brother's name, that he was working with the group, the BIPOC group out there in Colorado. And when he kept bringing up the issue of the lack of Black men in their platform, if I'm remembering correctly, or he was told by several of the heads that, well, you know, traditionally heterosexual Black men are adverse to transsexual, et cetera, et cetera. What does that have to do with political policy. These are the people that are getting killed, you know. Anyway, let's get into this though. Black America will have no one else to blame if we do not seize this moment and vote. Black voters have Biden's attention much more than they ever had or will have Trump's. Grab the chance to correct 400 years of systemic oppression. I don't know if they have Biden's attention more than they have Trump's. Biden is the one that said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, which means you gotta vote for me.
And what's the point of having someone's attention and you don't have their respect? It don't matter if you got this attention
or their best interests at heart.
You don't have he doesn't have our respect. He don't care about us. Whether he paying attention to you or not is absolutely insignificant. The fact that you can even come out and try to say that we could possibly attempt to end 400 years of oppression and white supremacy and domestic terrorism by voting for Joe Biden is absolute nonsense. It's disrespectful. Anyone saying that should automatically be shut out and shut down. This makes no sense whatsoever. You keep thinking that the problems are going to just morph into the solution because you're scared to do what it takes to become the solution yourself. This is the core of the problem with politics in Black America. We got this let's just chill kind of politics. We got this, oh man, we can't do that. We can't do what everyone else is doing for their policies and for their longevity and doing what's necessary for their prosperity. We the only ones got to say, no, we can't do that. We can't. We got all of these excuses. And that's our problem. We got all of these excuses. And then we do the blame game. No, it's the black women. No, it's the black men. We self-destructive because we don't see that all of this is psychological attacks and political attacks on our group to get us to act this way. And if we don't come together as a family, we're going to be erased as a family.
Facts. Now, let me finish reading through this and y'all going to see what I'm talking about. And what my brother Logic is so eloquently elucidated, highlighted. It says, last winter, during a focus group in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a black man who rarely votes told me he was tired of hearing sound bites of what people think he wants to hear because he's black. He said he wants to see specific proposals and measurable results. These comments underscored the concern many Democrats had about whether black folks should show up to vote in large numbers in 2020 than they did in 2016, and whether black men in particular would support President Donald Trump and the Republicans who enable him. Then the pandemic hit, and the impact of the virus in the black community justifiably became a huge cause for concern. And then George Floyd, was killed, and a national discussion about systemic injustice and police brutality ensued. Now, as we approach Election Day, the question remains, will black Americans turn out to vote this year? So he's listing these areas of concern that culminated in the idea that is affecting the 20% of disaffected black men that Roland Martin was talking about in 2018, right? When he visited the White House. He starts this article off by basically saying he spoke with one of these type of black men. So he says, as a black poster specializing in research in underserved communities, I often hear sentiments like, why should black people vote? Politicians don't care about people who look like me, and why should we vote for the Democrats? They take our votes for granted. These feelings are necessarily wrong. Yet in this moment with two starkly contrasting national paths, these feelings aren't necessarily wrong, Yet in this moment, with two starkly contrasting national paths in front of us, it is critical that every eligible American vote. So he just masked, he masked his clapback, if you will, at that sentiment in some form of verbose here, just a bunch of words. These feelings aren't necessarily wrong, but you got to go vote. Like, okay, well, who do you want me to vote for? Okay, well, he's going to make the case for you. Black voters make a real difference. In 2016, Trump would not have won the black voters. In 2016, Trump would not have won had black voters been more motivated to vote. So you give us Hillary super predator Clinton. You push out Bernie Sanders. And you think that that's going to motivate particularly our men. Okay. It continues. In Michigan, where Trump won by 11,000 votes, there were almost 393,000 eligible black voters who stayed home, 277,000 in Detroit alone. If the black community turns out this year, we could hold the key to turning a number of red and purple states solidly blue. So here he's making the case. You're going to go vote blue no matter who. No matter who. He says, for example, in 2016, Trump won Florida by a mere 113,000 votes, while more than 1 million black voters across the Sunshine State chose not to vote. 379,000 in Miami. In Georgia, where Trump won by just 211,000 votes, 530,000 black voters in Atlanta and 898,000 eligible black voters statewide did not participate. Again, let's unpack this. You give us an unpopular candidate in 2016 in Hillary Clinton. You give us another unpopular candidate in 2020 who may be even more unpopular than Hillary Clinton, maybe even more unpopular. And you tell us that we should, Amanda Seals, forget all of that stuff that this man said in the past. We need to get Trump out of office. Forget the fact that the Democrats have never put forth sound policy to close the racial wealth gap, which would bring that patriotic sentiment. People got money in their pockets and money in their savings accounts, and they're living the full American life, and they feel like citizens to say, you know what, I'm going to the polls and cast my vote. No, you kept places like Detroit destitute of any economic recovery. I've been to Detroit. It reminds me of the South Bronx in the early 80s. And anybody from New York City that's old enough to know how the South Bronx looked in the 1980s know exactly what I'm talking about. Dilapidated buildings and homes all over that place. And it's still like that. There's been no urban renewal in that city. And you think that these people are going to think, our people, that these politicians care enough about them? Why haven't they come fix this place up yet? Why are we still out here hustling and shooting and killing each other? You see, they don't care to answer that question. That question is irrelevant to them. You just get to the polls and vote. And then you have this people like that guy that I was just reading, Brossard, whatever his name is, trying to shame us into voting. So, all right.
Let me hop in real quick.
Go ahead,
man.
bro.
This is important, right? Understand this, right? And this happens, and I think I spoke to it a while ago, but I'm gonna hit it again, right? When you see all this attention during the presidential elections, right, especially on the Democratic side, right, and this is really why Democrats really you don't really hear a lot from Democrats nationally during midterms, but only during, you know, the on cycle, right, where the president is going, right, and the president is up for election. That's the only time you really hear a lot of nationwide Democrat, you got to get out and vote. Why don't they have this same energy during the midterms, right? Why don't you see them doing that then, right? Because it's only about the president. And why are they saying, I'm going to tell you the truth behind all of the spooky stories of we have to get Trump out and all of this stuff. The truth behind their energy is money. They want Trump out so they can get jobs. That's all this is about. At the end of the day, they trying to use fear tactics to twist and turn and bend you to their will so that they could get these federal jobs that come with federal appointments. So that if you can put Trump out of office and replace him with Joe Biden, you're going to see federal appointments with high-end executive jobs. They'll do a whole flip all across the country. That's what they're fighting for. People don't tell you this. This happens on the state level when governors switch. When the governor party switches, everybody gets fired, and at least 90% of them get fired and get replaced with whatever the winning party is, because the governor and like the governor, the president gets to appoint jobs, executive appointments. That's all this is about. That's not all it's about, but that's what the majority of is fueling these people energy, because they know if they dance and they sing and they buck loud enough and get enough tension thrown their way, if they do get that changeover, they might be one of the good niggas that get a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you can get a promotion out of this buck dancing. So if you're wondering why you see all this strange activity from people and they saying you got to get Trump out, because they think Biden is going to be the answer. What they're looking for, and this is why the Democrat Party has to have a control over whoever wins that office, is because they want to control the appointments of the federally appointed jobs. That's what this thing is about. Don't let them fool you. It's always about the bread.
All right, but Josh, before you go in, let me pull this comment up real quick. This Giovanni Alexander guy. Oh, man. He says, on the eve of the courts being totally stolen, he has to go. The courts, bro, not jobs, courts. Let me say to this brother, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but Trump has appointed Neil Gorsuch. He has appointed Brett Kavanaugh. And he has appointed Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. That's what we know on the surface, right? That ship has already sailed, brother. On the flip side of that, Trump has appointed over 90 right-wing, usually white supremacist justices to courts on the federal level nationwide. Every vacancy that Obama left open, Trump damn near filled with some white supremacists. Like, it's that ship has already sailed, brother. That's not on us. He got to go because of the courts. You're not paying attention, fam. You're not paying attention.
But that's a talking point that they've thrown out there. I don't know, if he is cognizant of the fact that he's just recycling some talking point. That's a part of the scare tactic. When you really flesh out how insignificant that is to our life, right? If you really think about it and think how much does the Supreme Court affect your life today, right? See, you run around scared about the Supreme Court of the United States, and you don't even know who your senator is, and you're on the state level. You don't even know what's going on where you live at, but you got the media got you so crazed. It's about the Supreme Court. It's the Supreme Court. You don't even know what they do. You don't even know how their decisions even affect you, but you're running around scared to death of it. But when the most nefarious criminal actions are being done by acts of your General Assembly and acts of Congress, and no one is even talking about that. They control the money. They control the policies. You don't never hear nobody super laser focused on Congress and General Assembly action. Congressional action has done everything for Black folks in this country. There ain't no advancement that happened in this country that wasn't through congressional action. You understand? People say, well, the Emancipation Proclamation didn't free nobody. It was the Congressional Act of the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery, not no Emancipation Proclamation. What do I mean? Just real brief, I'm not trying to go off the subject, but I'm trying to explain what is important right now, especially in our history and our lineage. Congressional acts have been what have advanced us in this country, not no presidency. Sometimes you had a president that was more helpful or useful than others, but at the end of the day, what got things done was Congress. You understand? When the Emancipation Proclamation went out, the country was in full out civil war, so it did not free anyone in the South, because the South wasn't even being recognizing Abraham Lincoln as their president. They had said Jefferson Davis was their president, so they didn't abide by anything there. Then they had already outlawed slavery in the North, so it didn't free no slaves there. And then in the Emancipation Proclamation, he excluded the neutral states so that they didn't take sides. So it didn't free any slaves there. No, none of that. So all of that stuff was just political posturing to try to change the climate of the Civil War. You understand? To try to influence in rebellion and try to influence things like that. So everything that has ever happened for us the Civil Rights Act of 1866, an act of Congress. The 13th Amendment, an act of Congress. You understand? The Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act of 1664, the Fair Housing, everything that has progressed us as a people in this country came from no president. It came from Congress. But you're running around scared of the Supreme Court. You're running around scared. Don't you know that the Congress that the Supreme Court only can interpret what Congress writes and legislates, and we can overturn the Supreme Court decision through an act of Congress. That's what happened with the Dred Scott case. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 overturned the Dred Scott case. You got your eye on the wrong ball, people.
Facts.
Right. And when the president vetoed the Civil Rights Act of 1866, what did they do? They made an amendment to lock it in.
They did a veto override and they passed it anyway. He tried to veto. He vetoed the 14th Amendment. He vetoed the 15th Amendment. But the power of Congress and the will of Congress was so strong, they did veto overrides. And not only that, Congress is the most democratic branch of government. It has it's what really makes us a republic in the first place. You have to understand that.
Yeah, amendments are acts, essentially when the Congress can lock things in. So even you don't have to worry about somebody coming in and changing it later easily without with just a small majority, or the Supreme Court being able to get around it. So I wanted to bring this point. I wanted to bring this point up also because, as a part of blaming us, the ADOS man, essentially, or they want to say larger, the black man, because that's how they're trying to set it up. And we brought up the case of how they're trying to blame us, and we were talking about essentially the reasons why that doesn't make sense, and we were talking about the reasons why it doesn't make sense. Before we talked about the reasons that are just dealing with this campaign, Biden's campaign, and dealing with Democrats now. But there's some other things, that we haven't talked about that are more to do with things that are outside of the campaign. Things that the campaign has no really control over, and those are bigger factors that deal with our positioning as the bottom caste in the country anyway. Being the most marginalized group. And we didn't even get into, if we want to talk about things dealing with reason why it doesn't make sense to blame us, we didn't even get into the whole background of Joe Biden. Like they should have known better than to make sure he was the candidate, the nominee. They should have known better than to make sure that the nominee of this Democratic Party was in fact the person who authored the crime bill, who made all kind of, if you just took out his history on the crime bill and you just went on the statements he made during this campaign alone, you would know that this is a terrible person that we're justified in nobody being able to blame us for not voting for him, right? When you add the context of the crime bill, it's a no-brainer. It's no way you can look at any other group that has this type of history, negative history with the candidate, and no other group you would try to demonize them for a reason why they wouldn't vote for that person, right? So those are reasons that it doesn't make sense to blame us based on this particular candidate and this particular campaign. Now, one reason that it wouldn't make sense to blame us, for if in the event that they lose, in which that we've seen that they're setting up that that's what they're trying to do. Another reason it wouldn't make sense is, I'm going to play this video, is how the Electoral College is set up. So I'm just going to play this video and then we can come back and talk about it.
Swing states have changed over time thanks to shifting demographics and political views. And it's states like these where presidential candidates spend most of their time campaigning. It also means these states have way more influence over the election than these ones. A study found that voters in Michigan had 51 times the amount of influence on the 2016 election as someone from a state like Utah. Voters in states like California or Missouri mattered very little. Swing states are where the election actually takes place. They get the attention and the influence, and they only exist because of the Electoral College. It doesn't seem very fair, but the Electoral College has always shifted power away from some people and towards others. It was how it was designed. Back when there were just a few states, not 50, they had to get all the states to agree on the Constitution. One problem. The northern states, which were largely anti-slavery, wanted only free people to count in the population towards electoral votes, which they had more of. The pro-slavery southern states were worried that they would be constantly outvoted and wanted enslaved people to count in determining the population. As a compromise, they settled on something called the 3/5 Clause. It established that an enslaved person would only count as 3/5 of a person. In 1800, Pennsylvania, a northern state, and Virginia, a southern one, had about the same number of free people living there. But Virginia was also home to hundreds of thousands of enslaved people who had no freedom, let alone a vote, and ended up with more votes in the Electoral College than Pennsylvania. That year, those extra electoral votes gave the candidate from Virginia just enough to win. Even after the U.S. finally abolished slavery and eventually gave Black Americans the right to vote, white Southern leaders found ways to keep them from voting, like with discriminating laws like poll taxes and acts of violence. This meant they continued to have overrepresentation in the Electoral College on behalf of a large population that couldn't vote.
Look at that.
The first time Congress attempted to replace the Electoral College with a simple popular vote was back in 1816. But senators from southern states blocked it, saying it would be deeply injurious to them. In 1969, Congress came even closer. Replacing the Electoral College had support in both parties and even passed the House, but it was blocked again by southern senators. A senator from Alabama wrote, "The Electoral College is one of the South's few remaining political safeguards.
Wow.
Let's keep it." Why change a system that historically had and still was benefiting white Southerners? Today, the states that the Electoral College benefits have changed, but it's still making some voters more powerful than others. If we look at the states with a lot of electoral votes for not a lot of people, and the states with a little electoral votes for a lot of people, these states are a lot wider and less diverse than the rest of America.
Hold on, I just had to stop at that point. I mean, I wanted to continue to go through it, but what do you think about this, man? What do you think about this?
I mean, it's crazy because I was going to play a clip as well from Twitter. It was this guy I had retweeted earlier, and he was talking about how the Electoral College was basically like, what did they call it? The slave. It was something that he said, but I mean, he pretty much gave a 1-minute breakdown to what was being said here. And this is just what it is. When you look at the electoral map and it's broken down by red states and blue states, there's a sea of red states. Their population is tiny in a lot of these states. And yet they are allowed to have a specific type of representation, or delegates, I should say, towards the, and even though they have a minimum population, towards this Electoral College. Most of these states are going to always be what they call red states. As that Southern senator said, the Electoral College is a safeguard for us. They set up a system designed for them to win. And when they do not win, and I used to say this all the time, when you look at Barack Obama, it wasn't his race necessarily. It was the fact that he was a Democrat that was the ire of the right wing's attack. His race was just the icing on the cake. And that icing is now producing Proud Boys and Boogaloo Boys and all of these people that's walking around ready to kill, to kill. And their ideology is centered on, don't ever forget this, family, even if you're a Trump supporter, that these people ideology is centered on anti-blackness. The sister said, could you drop the link in the chat, Josh, to this video?
Okay.
So, you know, that was my take on it. And as long as they have this safeguard in place, elections are going to always be close, too close to call. Bush v. Gore 2000, like they're going to always be like that. The popular vote means nothing. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by, I think, over 3 million votes. How can you live in a democracy, a republic whose voting process is democratic, based on representation? These people that we elect into office are being sent there to represent us. And yet, this system, whose mainspring is its electoral system, is null and void because some Southern racists made it so that they will always have power. And they had that power for a good stretch of time in the 1800s. We're not living in a true republic, family. We're just not. This is something else that we need to touch on as well.
Yeah. Oh, what's up, Grim?
Brother Grim is in the building.
Hey, peace, y'all. I just was joining in, brother, man. I'm listening.
Okay.
Just want to say peace to everybody that's watching. Everybody be safe and careful and listen. And, man, you know, don't blame all black men. That's all I got to say.
Definitely.
Yeah. And, you know, when I look at this, you know, I wonder what the numbers will look like on this particular chart if you took Alabama out. You know, if you look at the chart and you see how it says, you know, the light blue is white, and then you got the orange is black, and the red is Hispanic, and there's other groups up there. I wonder if you took Alabama out, would that orange pretty much disappear? You know, you know, but it's interesting because that's the only state that you see that benefits disproportionately from the having the system of electoral colleges, as far as they get overrepresentation, or their each vote counts way more than the others. They're the only state that's in this group that has any significant population of our people as residents or as voters.
So this. Go
ahead.
No, I was adding on camel backing, right? This blame black people narrative, which is going to come down to blaming black men, which is why I pulled those articles up. These articles are setting up the blame. It makes no sense. You never got rid of this electoral college. You let the Southern senators win out every time. You never, just to go back in time, because the brother Giovanni said we in 2020. Yeah, well, the things that happened in the past have an effect on the future, brother. They have an effect on the now.
And think about this. This is the only country in the world that has a system like this.
That's a fact.
You know? There's no other country in the world that has a system like that. And we know that the context of having a system like this is based off of, you have a country that was built on slavery, and you had a certain group of states that were, you know, have its foundations, of course, in colonies, but these states were for slavery, and they wanted to be dominating in the political power because they wanted to count a huge percentage of the people that were there as slaves. They wanted to get counted for representation, but they didn't want to let us vote. So I mean that's why you want to say, well, it's old. This is, you know, yeah, this is 2020. Yeah, but they never changed the system. They never changed they never changed the reason why. I mean, you can't change the reason why, but they never changed the system, and the system is still in existence from having the foundations in slavery reasoning.
Facts. So
camel toe.
Yeah, I don't know about he got me thinking about. I said that. I was like, oh,
no, you said camelback.
I said camelback. Okay, all right, Devon from Brooklyn. All right, so what did you want to play some more of this?
I don't see a reason why let's just finish it up. I might have another point in here that I'm forgetting about, but I can't remember what's at the end.
And many of these states are Republican strongholds. These tend to vote Democratic. That's one reason the two most recent Republican presidents have won the Electoral College without winning the popular vote. And since it's currently Democrats that are primarily disadvantaged by the Electoral College, they're the ones leading the charge to replace it with a popular vote.
Get rid of the Electoral College and everybody.
But as politics have changed, the people most critical of the Electoral College have too. In the 1948 presidential election, New York ended up being the major swing state. A congressman from Texas said, "I have no objection to the Negro in Harlem voting, but I do resent the fact that his vote is worth 100 times as much as the vote of a white man in Texas." Swing states change. What doesn't is that the Electoral College gives certain people more power to pick the president. And its biggest defenders have always been those who benefit the most from it.
No, that's it. Look, let me play this clip from my Twitter page, and then I want to get into why blame us, right? Because that's what we're doing here. So let's get into this. Oh, I forgot to do the audio share because, well, these people are. We're not going to have it anymore. We're not letting these people make us their doormats anymore. That's a wrap. So let's play this.
Talk about the role of slavery in the establishment of the Electoral College.
Sure. I mean, slavery is obviously at the heart of every compromise that is struck at that constitutional convention. The one we know that's most familiar to us is the 3/5 compromise. And that was the deal by which the southern slaveholding states got to count 3/5 of their slaves toward their representation in Congress. So that equals roughly 12 to 14 extra representatives in Congress over the first decades of the country's life. And because of the way the Electoral College is designed, that translates into 12 to 14 extra electoral votes. The South actually won the White House, held on to the Speaker of the House, won many Supreme Court seats because of that extra power. It was called the slave power at the time, and it ran all the way up through the Civil War. And so that's really slavery was clearly at the heart of the compromise, and it certainly the Electoral College benefited the slave states well into the 19th century.
The slave power. Did y'all hear that? What you have to understand is that the United States of America is still running off of the slave power. That's what the Electoral College is. You don't blame us. Don't blame us. Y'all never got together to fix this thing. Y'all gave the Southerners too much power. The Southerners seceded from the Union, which means they broke their original compact in the Articles of Confederation, which said that this shall be a perpetual union. You had to sign the 14th and 15th Amendment to get back in. You murdered Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was trying to take it light on them. Lincoln was trying to take it light on them. It was the people in Congress, particularly in the House, that wanted to prosecute and persecute the Southerners for their dissension. The Lincoln's like, oh, no, it's okay. The impeachment of Jefferson Davis, and I mean, what was that? They let all of these people off with a slap on the wrist, yet they never fixed it. So America is still running off of the slave problem. This is why they refuse to come out and say, I apologize for slavery. This is why they're trying to shift the burden of how elections are won and lost on our people, the descendants of the former slaves. We can't have this no more, family. We can't keep letting these people put this thing on us. We can't do it. I want my brothers, I want to pull this up before we go in. I want my brothers to comment, but I got to pull this up real quick. I got to pull this up. Can y'all see that? Okay, cool. This is from Statista.com. Nearly 30% of Hispanics voted for Trump. U.S. election voters share by race. Clinton, Trump. So we're talking about the 2016 election. Let's blow this up a little bit more. let's blow this up a little bit more. As you can see, Black voted at 8%, 8% for Trump, compared to 88% for Clinton. Asians voted at 29% for Trump. Hispanics and Latinos voted at 29% for Trump. Others voted at 37%. Y'all didn't do nothing in all of that time. And we got hip and put onto y'all's games of the Democratic Party. And now that you see a large swath of our people, men, that's saying enough is enough and putting our foot down, you want to set up to blame us. We can't have that, family. My bros, please speak to this. I'm going to leave this graph up.
Hey, peace. You know, we talked about it a little bit, man, the other night. And I just want to reiterate, because I came in late on the show, so I'm not going to take up too much time, because I know Josh want to break down a few things. But we made the analogy, man, that politics is like the church. And we said, what do we mean by that? And we was making reference to a comparison between the Black male participation in the church versus the Black female participation in the church. And basically, we were saying that the reason we made the comparison is because Black men, for the most part, and it's not disparaging anybody's religion, but Black men, for the most part, recognize the game and the preacher game and the pulpit game, you know, when it comes to church activities. And like what Brother Way L was just saying a second ago, it's the same thing that a lot of Black men see, that, you know, they are not being benefited by politics, because politics got us the 1994 crime bill. Politics got us the socioeconomic status that we have now today. Politics, you know, also got us these messed up family court laws that was specifically aimed at, you know, Black fathers who, quote unquote, weren't with their children's mother. You know, all of that stuff aimed at impoverishing, you know, the Black males, you know. And just like in these systems in church, how Black women are basically glamorized in status and stuff in these church, the same thing that they doing, in my opinion, with politics, where, you know, instead of counting us as a whole in our activities, they keep pulling out these statistics saying Black women doing this, Black women do that, Black woman the backbone of the Democratic Party, the Black woman, you know. And this is not to diss the sisters or anything like that, but I'm just showing that this is the game that they playing against us, both on the left and the right, but right now, particularly on the left. And the reason they doing that is because if they take one of those hard hitter losses on Tuesday, they want to be able to gather all of their feed numbers and all of their statistics, and they want to be able to say, well, if Black men showed up to the poll, we would have won, you know. And you know, I put the brothers on to those. Well, I ain't gonna say I put the brothers on, but I had mentioned some things about the past president of the NAACP, Ben Jealous, who basically has an organization aimed at, you know, trying to get Black men to vote, or rather vote Democratic, because they say that Black men are the targets of the misinformation campaign about voting. But it ain't no misinformation. Well, it is a misinformation program, but it ain't no misinformation program to the extent that Black men know that they have been played by public policy in many ways, like in their family court, taxes, representation, social status, man, you know, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, outside of outside of let's talk about social programs. I'm a little rusty on this because I haven't been studying. But let's talk about social programs, you know, that's subsidized by the government, like Section 8. You know, they not gonna run up and give no black male, a single black male or whatever, no Section 8 vouchers and all of that kind of stuff for housing. You know, and when black men go to these systems to get the same help that sisters get, they don't get that stuff per se. And if they do get it, you know, like things like WIC and food stamps, whatever they used to call it, you know, they don't give black men those things, regardless of how impoverished they are, you know. And then, you know, black men get blamed when they get with a quote unquote woman that you know, benefit from that type of system, and they say he's leaning on her legs, man. But we just got to stop this stuff. This is the last thing, man, I'll say. We just got to stop this blame black men, man. Because how you go beat the hell out of somebody with a hammer and tell them to stand up straight?
Facts. So, I mean, you know, we had to show the grab. My bad. I had to tend to something real quick, family. But we had to show that graph. And I also want to read. I don't know if Josh was about to go in on something, Josh.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to because I saw some people pushing back on the electoral college thing. And again, I was just saying that's a debate, you know, maybe we can have another time when we got some more time. But I was just trying to show that, you know, if a lot of states that may be red states and we may have our votes concentrated in those states, and yeah, it may be contested, but if that state loses to, you know, if the majority of let's say the majority of the state gets, the person wins the votes in a lot of more rural white areas, then all of the urban black votes, they get thrown out of the window. So your votes go and they're not used towards, you know, what you voted for anyway. So it doesn't, like, there's an argument to be made on both sides. And I think the data shows that the majority of that happens more often than not, you know. So we can have that debate. You know, I really didn't even look that heavily into it. I just looked at the bottom line data. And but I just wanted to show this is another factor that demonstrates that you can't blame us for again, using Joe Biden's campaign, his history. You can't blame us if the numbers come in at a point where they don't want them to come in, or they see is dangerous for that he may lose. You can't blame us for that. You can't blame the 94 crime bill author and the person that when we asked for reparations is talking about immigrants of the future. You can't blame us for that. You can't blame us when he hires a vice president nominee who we did not want.
That's right.
Who has this bad history towards us.
That's
who
right.
says she's not gonna do nothing specific for us. Who has all kind of history of locking up black mothers and things like that, and we didn't want in the primary. We told you we didn't want in the primary. Okay, so then there's the other factor. There's the other side of, you know, issues that are outside of that party and outside of that campaign that make our vote not mean and not, you know, it just doesn't show up how it needs to show up. It's an injustice. It's like we all the way screwed all the way around the board. So we were already screwed with the system that's set up with voting, being having not only with the electoral college, but the voter suppression, with the prison gerrymandering, you know. So that's another argument that is against the electoral college part, right? So if you want to say, well, it helps. We have an advantage because we can make the difference in some of the states because we can vote. We vote heavily in those cities. Yeah, but what they do is they do prison gerrymandering. They can lock you up and put you in a red area to where
the new 3/5.
Yeah, that's what they call the 5/5
compromise. 5/5 compromise.
Yeah, yep. So then that's a way how they dilute your voting power in the concentrated area. So you got to clean that up. But I mean, that's not even the point. The point is That's out of our control. That's not of our doing, and that's not in our control. So you can't blame us for that. So when they try to blame us for that, we didn't agree for that. We didn't agree that we didn't agree to be overly representative of the prison population. We didn't agree to be for you to build these prisons in Republican districts and areas almost all the time. Like, for example, Wisconsin, where they said, what is it, a third or half or almost all of the black neighborhoods, save for a few, are prisons. We didn't agree for that. So please try to blame us for that and see how much sense it's gonna make. Well, go ahead, Grim, or Naheem. I just wanted to drive that home. I didn't even really have too much else to say. All right. Well, I'm gonna look in the chat. It says not Bernie, not Elizabeth, none supported reparations. Yeah. I mean, at some point, enough is enough. And see, my thing is, it's the same thing we said with Q, and what we need everybody to understand who may be listening to this who doesn't already understand. Your politics needs to stop being party-based and party-centered. It needs to be agenda-based, because whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, we're not meant to be anybody's mule. The mule gets ill treatment. You know, the mule, I mean, if stuff breaks down and your farm burns and you don't have any food, you might need to eat the mule as a last resort. But you're not going to eat your people in your household. You know, the mule, we're not meant to mule for any party. You know, we're supposed to be at the table and not on the menu. They just want to treat us like we part of the cuisine.
Fact.
You know, and I want to say another thing too. This is kind of even off topic, but it just made me remember. You know, you see, so we have to be able to discern between those who go to see the chef to get him to add sweet potato pie, to get him to make sweet potato pie, and not and discern between those and the people who go to the chef to negotiate the price for delivering us to be having the ingredients for kidney pie. I don't know if y'all now remember kidney pie from Hannibal, but he had made the kidney pie. In other words, what I'm saying is, if you look at like Ice Cube, you have to understand they're gonna try to lump dudes like Ice Cube with dudes like Lil Wayne. Right? Lil Wayne went to Trump, and he basically is co-signing he's being the black face, and he the person that representative of, you know, hip hop, and trying to get the black vote and giving his stamp of approval, right? That's basically using, you know, us. He's attempting to use us. He's attempting to sacrifice by delivering some number of our vote to Trump, or even to just sitting out, right? He's trying to deliver our vote, or the, you know, whatever the case may be, whatever benefit there is to be had by his endorsement, he's trying to deliver that. So that's kind of like he's looking for some type of benefit, whether it be elevation from some other, I don't know what he's looking for, but we know it's self-interest, it's not people interest, because he's demonstrated that before. So we're able to easily discern from him. And a person like Ice Cube who's like, nah, we're not promoting Trump. We're not giving him no photo ops and no thumbs up and all of that. We're not doing the same thing with Democrats. We're going to put our agenda on the table, and we're going to demand either they're going to adhere to it, or it's going to be some consequences. See, that's the person that's trying to get us something that we want added to the menu, as opposed to putting us on the menu.
That reminds me of this comment that the sister LJ Taylor said in the chat. She said, politics is psychological. Your energy is wasted on fighting the narrative when you have to focus on controlling it. Why not own the blame? Take pride in it. Yes, we did this. You didn't earn our vote. And I understand that sentiment. And it's hard to argue against, you know, but we can't let them make it appear as if we are the reason why Trump doesn't get elected. I showed the graph that showed the voter turnout for Asians, Latinos, or Hispanics, and others. at way higher rates, almost 30% across the board, while we were at 8%, which brings me to another article, right? So this is a Vox article. Let me pull this up. Trump's surprising resilience with Hispanic voters explained. Okay, let me close this out because I broke that down into two. All right, so it reads, Trump's relative resilience with Latino voters can be easy to overlook because he is losing these voters by a large margin, 39 points according to the New York Times. Still, he is losing them by less than he did in 2016, which is strange at a time when his numbers are otherwise failing. Democrats' baseline assessment is not that this reflects a sudden rightward shift in Hispanic opinion. So much as the fact that Senator Bernie Sanders was by far the Latino community's choice in the primary. And former Vice President Joe Biden's campaign has not thus far made unity
Uh-oh. Is that my computer or are you broken up? Grim, you there, bro?
Yeah, brother, man, I'm here.
Okay. He froze up. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No. I mean, I look at it. Did you want to say something?
No, go ahead, brother.
I look at it like, yeah, we're kind of doing both. We're telling why you can't blame us, but at the same time, I think it's different if we come after the fact than if we come before the fact. Like we came after the fact and it's almost like you making excuses and you in the defensive. If we come and we're telling you this before the fact, we're telling you this preemptively, then I think it is taking ownership. It is kind of like saying it with your chest, like, yeah, you didn't give us what we needed, and so therefore you're taking the L. We're calling it beforehand. So I don't think it's a defeatist. I think it's more explanatory.
Right, indeed. And let me just add to that too, like as a sidebar, those numbers also show, in my opinion, the bogusness of a black-brown coalition, because the diversity between those things that those people value in terms of freedom, justice, and equality, and equity along those lines, man. Because this been basically on my mind all day is that, the black and brown coalition, it's just a farce in these things. And none of those people ask themselves why those Latino and Asian numbers are so high in those regards. And like Brother Wayel was saying, those people are not gonna be blamed. But when it comes to fighting this equality war, they want to start using this black and brown coalition. But those people are basically coming over here, man, and they accessing whiteness, man. And that's just the bottom line. They're accessing whiteness, and in many cases, white wealth. So,
Fact.
Why wouldn't they support these things? And I think Ali made a good point, man. And he said too that a lot of those Latino people, man, are door closers, because they'll come over here by any means necessary. But then when they get their status right in this country, as far as their citizenship, they just basically piss on the people that come behind them, and then embrace these so-called conservative views in regards to immigration and citizenship, man. It's just it's a shame too. And they also use the socialist question, because a lot of those Latinos come from these countries like the people in Cuba and stuff who had to deal with communism and socialism. And those people are basically ignorant of what a lot of those systems represent. And they only base it upon the fact that their countries and their governments failed for them under those systems. So when those people hear like socialists and communists and things of that nature, or they hear these Republicans calling, certain people on the left socialists, they basically go back to the conditions and the situations of what went on in their homeland. Because I was watching the MMA fighter Jorge Masvidal basically endorsing Trump, and he was giving throwbacks to the things that happen in these governments. But we also have to understand too that those governments, became unstable under certain socialist concepts and ideas, not necessarily because, and it's not no socialist plug, I'm just, putting a point out, that those countries basically fail because of other economic factors in their relationship with the West. If y'all understand what I'm saying, and interfering with their government through operatives and stuff like that, man, those people go up in there, they'll take over your utility system, your utilities infrastructure and stuff like that, drive the prices up, spike the prices up of oil, play with your supply. And then when your socialist government fall, they'll be like, see, that's stuff for the people, talk about all people. But then, socialism is just a word like capitalism.
That's right.
But it's okay when they getting all the money and they getting all the benefits and they getting the subsidies, they call it capitalism. But when people get it and the things go for the population or for the benefit of the population, they'll turn around and they'll say, God damn it, that's a socialist. But it's okay when they get it, So, but I'm just relating that to the fact that those people are ignorant of those systems they come from. And that's why those numbers too are basically slightly higher towards Trump. But yeah, they need to give them some blame too, because I guarantee it, when it's all said and done, like we have been talking about, they're gonna try to blame the native African American population for that, for a Biden loss if it happens.
Facts. Yeah, pardon me, family. I had some little technical difficulties right now. We got the brother Giovanni Alexander. He's a little salty right now. I guess he want to come on. I mean, this is not the time to come on right now, but I just want to let him know we got more than 6 live viewers. He's watching from Facebook. We got a whole audience from Twitter to YouTube that we're streaming on as well. So chill, bro. Chill out. All right, look, I'm a
what do you want to come on and say, brother?
Nah, I'm about to get off of here, bro. He ain't talk about nothing. He ain't talk about nothing. He just want to argue just to argue. He ain't talk about nothing.
Oh, 10-4.
Let me pull this up because I spoke to the fact that Bernie, and this isn't even an article, right? I want to pull up web search results. This is what I want to pull up real quick, and then I'm gonna end it. Web search results. So I punched in because y'all heard me talk about this on the last live stream. I think I was on by myself on the last live stream. How the mainstream media pushed out Bernie Sanders. They pushed out a popular candidate. It's not that Bernie Sanders would not have gotten Black support, because he would have. He would have. The enthusiasm around Bernie wasn't necessarily where it needed to be. Bernie Sanders has a particular message. He repeats it. He's been repeating it for the past 20 years, it seems like. And that isn't something that our people necessarily jive with. But as you get closer to the election, particularly in a debate, Bernie would have destroyed Donald Trump in a debate. Absolutely destroyed him. You get Sleepy Joe up there. This dude still, just the other day, was live talking about, hey, y'all, I'm Joe Biden's husband. Do you mean Jill Biden, man? Yo, what the hell? Like, I just facepalm like, oh my God. But MSNBC, or as Trump likes to call them, MSDNC, pushed out Bernie. CNN pushed out Bernie. All over media. So I just wanted to scroll through these real quick. I'm not even going to click on any of them.
And also the party bosses too, brother.
Oh yeah, it was basically the DNC. They got together. I remember on MSNBC, they brought Gregory Meeks on. If Trump wins, who's going to blame Gregory Meeks for helping push an unpopular candidate? Because I know he was getting a bag from Bloomberg. I know he got a bag from Bloomberg. Them career politicians like that, particularly on the Congressional Black Caucus. I mean, any little bag that you can give them, they're going to take. We need to start giving them some mojo bags, Grim, that have the adverse effect of protection. We'll talk about that another time. Right? So, but this dude, Gregory Meeks, he's on MSNBC, and he's like, he's not a Republican. I mean, he's not a Democrat. Bernie Sanders isn't one of us. And I mean, they're pounding and pounding and pounding this thing home. So much so that it affected Cenk Uyghur's run in California of the Young Turks. Very popular progressive. A lot of candidates, Jamal Bowman, Cory Bush. These are Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and a couple others. These are all the part of the progressive wing of the Democrats, aka Democratic Socialists. The mainstream media's pushback against Bernie Sanders was so powerful that it affected certain elections. Cenk Uygur's election being one of them, to whereas Bernie had to disavow and disconnect himself from Cenk Uygur and his run, which was crazy to me. I thought it was absolutely crazy. But this is how this game of politics is played when you have the media and government working in tandem for a specific cause. Case in point, Trump has been going at MSNBC. I just said he calls them MSDNC, right? He's been going at them. And yet, when Byron Allen took Comcast, the mega media corporation that owns MSNBC, to court, it was Trump's Department of Justice writing a memo, a memorandum, I believe it was. I could be saying the wrong word for Comcast against Byron Allen, who was standing on the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which was based upon us being citizens and us being able to contract. That's what it was all about. Contract. You can't stop these citizens from contracting, period. That's what you boil down the 1866 Rights Act to, because we're citizens. Trump's Department of Justice sided with Comcast against Byron Allen, family. For you Trump supporters out there, because you know we don't rock with Trump or Biden. We don't rock with either of them. So I'm going to end it off this. I'm going to let my bros give a closing statement. But let me blow this up some. Media coverage. So I punched in mainstream media pushed out Bernie Sanders. So here we see all of these different pages. Media coverage of Bernie Sanders. It even got its own Wikipedia page. GQ did an article. Why does mainstream media keep attacking Bernie Sanders? I don't know who this is in the set times or in these times.com. It's obviously hard to read with all of the words bundled up like that. Did the mainstream media take down Bernie Sanders? Vox.com, Bernie Sanders versus the corporate media in the 2020 race. AP News, Bernie Sanders thinks media is unfair, so he created his own. I didn't click on none of this stuff. TheWeek.com, the media fit over Bernie Sanders. 7 Iber or Liber, I don't know what that, if that's what that means. Liber.com, Bernie Sanders and the biases of mainstream American media. Opinion, and this was all the way back in February when Bernie Sanders was starting to create daylight between, and family, I wasn't no Bernie Sanders fan because of his anti-reparation stance, but like I said on the last live stream, I would have voted for Bernie Sanders at the top of the ticket this go around. I would have, to see we possibly could have worked with that man over the next 4 years. There's a possibility.
And you know, we got to add the context of his campaign strategy as far as abandoning us and kind of leaving us out.
That's right.
For Latinos.
That's right.
Backfired, and so he has his own part to play in the blame. You know, it wasn't just the coalescing of the other Democratic candidates dropping out and essentially getting behind Biden.
That's right.
But it was also Sanders' failure because if Sanders would have did what he was supposed to do, engaging us and elevating our issues and things like that as a part of his platform, he would, you know, Joe Biden might have had some trouble in some of them southern states like South Carolina. You know, might have yeah. So and it wouldn't have been, he wouldn't have had to rely so much on being dominating California and Texas. So
right. And let me add to that, because you all know that I've had personal conversations with you all about my personal stance on that issue. And, you know, my statement has always been, regardless of, you know, the arguments about Bernie Sanders, Black agenda, his stance on reparations, you know, I would have rather cast a vote, me personally, I would have rather had cast a vote for Bernie Sanders and then turn around and fight him on the issues of reparations, as opposed to fighting a Trump or Biden on the issues of reparations and a Black agenda, because we could have put pressure on him through other elements of the so-called left to be able to address our agendas, instead of, you know, just trying to make it this class-based way of addressing our problems. And we could have fought him on specificity on the issues and why we need it. I would have rather had pressured the left than to have to deal with these guys. And then we would have educated Bernie Sanders about the mistakes that he made, you know, during his campaign and addressing our issues and problems.
Not only that, as has been said, we hear often, even amongst the ADOS talking heads, and you know, we say it all the time. We hear, I think Elizabeth Warren said, what politics is personnel. Is that how it goes? And you look at Bernie Sanders' personnel, you see he had you know, Nina Turner on his campaign. You saw he had Killer Mike as a surrogate. You know, and I believe if he would have won South Carolina, and if he would have, you know, I mean, you would have seen a lot of the establishment people out of the way, and you would have seen more people step up that represent us from the proper perspective. You know, if you look at those people were talking on our specific issues. You know, those are ADOS people. And not only that, he would, you know, part of his team that he would have had, I think it was already a person that would have been proposed for a cabinet position in the Sanders administration. They were talking about it since it was getting so close, was Stephanie Kelton. Stephanie Kelton, who, you know, wrote the book The Deficit Myth. And, you know, that economic philosophy in fiscal, like, understanding and things like that, as far as MMT, that's the type of person we need to have in place for a program like reparations. That's what we would need for a program like reparations.
And you got to think that these Democrats The establishment Democrats knew that. And to camelback on what my brothers were just saying, yeah, we could have worked with Bernie Sanders. We could have, because at the end of the day, ending slavery, the abolitionists, let me say this, the abolitionists were progressives. That was a progressive movement. The want for our people during the times of slavery to learn how to read and write, these were progressive movements. And this is highlighted in the bloody shirt. How the whole bloody shirt narrative comes about is because of an educator from the North that came down to the South to teach our ancestors how to read and write. And the Southerners didn't like that. And they beat that man within an inch of his life. An inch of his life. And this created the whole bloody shirt narrative. Y'all can look that up on your own. So the question then becomes to Bernie Sanders, if he's the nominee who then becomes the president, is how can you be a progressive and be against reparations when reparations is the most progressive thing that this American government could ever do outside of freeing our people from slavery? Because you didn't give us reparations. And the little bit that we did get, you let John Wilkes Booth assassinate Abraham Lincoln. I'm going to say they let it happen because this was a grand conspiracy. It wasn't just this one man. People knew that he was going to do that. None of that stuff got back to the president of the United States of America. And he snuck up behind him and put one in the back of his dome. Like, let's be real here. They let that happen.
And what's the ultimate result of that, beloved? The ultimate result of that was the withdrawal of the federal troops from the South.
That's right.
Some of these governments, because y'all know we talk about it all the time. Y'all can show the pictures. Some of these governments was turned over into the hands of the Afro-Americans or African-Americans or African-Americans, Negro, whatever terminology you want to use. A lot of these state legislatures in the South were literally turned over to our people with our father. You know, I like to call them, you know, some of these brothers the fathers. You know, brothers like Frederick Douglass, but more particularly people like Hiram Revels in the band of brothers that was him. And you know, I call them the fathers.
That's right.
Of our people, our group, because the governments went over into the hands. They pulled out, they suppressed these governments. Ali Bey like to talk about this a lot. You know, with the white camellia leagues, they came in.
That's right.
Black people were running the registrar of voters. They came in violence with bats, guns, rifles, took over whole councils and legislatures and towns and reestablished white rule.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
so,
and they were one of the first things also, the what is the word I'm looking for? They basically canceled Field Order 15. That was done.
Andrew Johnson. So, you know, I see people in the chat say, you know, they going at Bernie. Look, we're not saying that Bernie, you know, was the best choice for us, but we're saying that, you know, repeating was said throughout this movement, and that is politics is pressure.
Right.
Politics is pressure.
It's all politics, man. Look, ain't nobody walking up in that office gonna be no Jesus.
Fact.
You know what I'm saying? There ain't gonna be no Jesus, no Buddha or Muhammad. You know, we don't have no permanent allegiance. We only have permanent interests.
Fact.
And that, you know, who you gonna put in there? Or you gonna put in the malleable mold of a liberal democratic socialist or goddamn borderline? Well, I ain't gonna say borderline, but I'm gonna say a fascist white supremacist. You know, and basically, like I'm gonna say this as a side note. Our people, man, who supporting Trump, and we're not talking about no typical black Republicans. We're talking about all these new heads. These people have decided that they want to be the upper caste under another upper caste in this whole system, and they basically acquiesce to that. So when we talk about the whole issue and things with Bernie Sanders, ain't no Jesus gonna be up there. But I'd rather fight Plato than the damn brick wall, particularly with the resources, allotted to us right now.
Facts, man.
That's politics. That's politics.
That's politics. I'd rather fight Plato than the brick wall. Whoo! I gotta remember that one. I'm putting that in my little stash. So y'all might hear that come across on BTP a couple times over the next couple of weeks. You know, shout out to my brother Grim, man. Like I said, for those that don't know, he's the original member of the team. He just, you know, my brother is in fallback mode, but my brother has put in a lot of work over the years as well. He's on this BTP channel with me on some of the older videos, and we're touching on a lot of this history, dealing with our people being day one citizens, etc. So I want to, you know, to Brother Nuke, I won't call them the king face Republicans because that brother died. I won't do that. I'll call them the young Pharaoh Republicans or the Candace Owens Republicans. So, but I understand what you mean by that. But we're gonna wrap it up. Brother Josh, if you had any closing statements that you wanted to give to the family.
Nah, just make sure we stay solid in the message of stop letting them divide us along gender lines. Stop letting them divide us as far as trying to believe that there's some type of benefit to be had because they want to say, well, black women, they doing this. Black women, the black man is, you know, gonna cost us, and the black woman, she's voting. No, look, across the board, when you group us together, we still vote for the party, the Democratic Party, way larger than any other group. And if we did not, if our numbers drop, you have nobody to blame but yourselves. Because guess what? Look who you made as nominee. Look what he said out of his mouth. Look how he treated us. Look at the people he's talking about elevating in positions. Look at the policies that he's talking about administering and how it's damaging us. Look at his surrogates. Look at the whole party and the trajectory that it went to. Look at how they even nominated. So stop trying to deflect and blame us and trying to demonize us as far as we want to be Trump. No, we don't. Of course, we don't care nothing about Trump. We have no desire to push for a Trump reelection. But we have to start acting in our own best interest long term. See, I think a lot of people don't understand that these people who are in office, they care about power for immediacy. Our interests are long term. That's right. Because reparations is going to be a long term project. Not only a long term project to see it to the finish line, but a long term project to do the actual repair. So again, stop trying to let them break us up along gender lines. Keep the black family as the center focus.
That's right.
Black family magic. And I am a reparationist.
Peace. That's right. Peace, brother Grim. You wanted to add anything?
Peace, brother. Man, I'm good, beloved brother. I just wanna echo what Josh said. Man, let's keep the family together, man. It's just so much, man, against us. And it seemed like, we always had issues and stuff in our race with like relationships between men and women. But man, people got to sit down and realize, man, that all of this come from the failed effort in Reconstruction.
That's right.
All of this shit go back to the failed efforts of Reconstruction, the blame on each other, the inefficiency, the impotency of the men in doing stuff for his woman. So you can look at other groups and say, well, they man did this and this person did this. All of that stuff come back to the failure of the Reconstruction, man, and the attack on the black family, child support law, court law, morals. And I'm gonna have to say this: morals, religious instruction, education, man. People don't really realize how deep even some of this music we listen to, how you gotta go to some underground place and hear some positive rapper, but then you can hear this clown Lil Wayne looking like a goddamn rat mole. You understand what I'm saying? Sitting there with Trump. You see what I'm saying? Back in the old Tulsa, Oklahoma night Black City days, man, people like Lil Wayne would be considered the dregs of society. But we have turned these people into gods, man. And right. A lot of that stuff, man, has came in and interfered with our community. The turning upside down of the descendants of American slavery culture, or the ADOS culture, whatever the terminology. Because y'all know I ain't into all of that. But the terminology and all of that stuff, because we could use several terminologies for who we are, but that's another story for another day. But the bottom line, man, is that they turned our indigenous African American culture that we forged out of our condition of slavery in this country, and they added an illicit element to it. So you got a bunch of illicit people in dysfunctional relationships. You follow what I'm saying? Coming out of slavery with and this is what reparations about too. Reparations about repair. And we've never been repaired because of the failed efforts of reconstruction all those long years ago. But people want to be like, hey, look at them. It's just like giving a man or a woman a placebo, right? And then telling them why you can't get up and walk and why you still sick. Man, it's dog bait, man.
That's right.
With that, I just say peace, man.
That's right.
And I'm a reparationist.
I am a reparationist. Ooh, always trend. Black family magic. Don't let them, like my brother Josh said, don't let them divide us along gender lines and separate us. White supremacy is good at doing that, trying to put our men against our women. And look out for brothers, particularly out there trying to blame our men for whatever it is, when the issues that we face are collective. Those brothers, like Sister Erica Lachey said, are eunuchs, point blank, period. Sister Margaret McCall asks, are we going to do a broadcast Tuesday? We're going to be on with ADOS California Tuesday. We're going to do, I believe we're going to be doing live election coverage. I'll put out, I don't know if we're going to have a simulcast from that channel and also BTP. I'm not sure yet, but I will let the family know possibly on Tuesday. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell icon. If you want to support the channel, you can always use the super chat. You could send contributions to the Cash App handle, BETHEPOWER. You could become a Patreon. We're going to start adding some information to the Patreon over the next couple of weeks. I can't front. I'm still trying to figure out how that whole thing works, but it's gonna be in effect pretty soon. Again, to go back to the topic of tonight's stream, we cannot let these people blame us for how other people vote, period. America did us dirty. America continues to do us dirty. We are getting shot down. We being shot down in the streets. We shoot each other down, but those are beefs. And when it comes to beefs, we can speak to, it's wrong, but it's kind of legitimate. I hope nobody don't take that the wrong way. People, my mics on debate, people took something I said the wrong way, but I'll shoot from the hip. I'm not trying to be politically correct and speak. I'm shooting from the hip. If the beef is legitimate at the end of the day, a cop pulling you over and shooting you down just because is illegitimate, or a cop shooting you down because you have a knife in your hand when you have a taser and other means to disarm that man, that's not legitimate. And you see videos of white men running up on cops with knives and golf clubs and cricket bats, whatever them things are called, cricket sticks, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, that's not legitimate at all. That's not legitimate. So how you fix all of those issues, number one, we start with reparations, because reparations is broad. It's not just cutting a check. It's overall repair of the system. And you start with acknowledgement, closure, and redress. Acknowledgement, redress, and closure. Acknowledgement is the apology for slavery. We had a black president, y'all, and Obama. I don't call him a black president. I call him a white man that had a black father. And Barack Obama that never gave us our acknowledgement. Biden was his vice president for 8 years. Do you think Biden is going to apologize for slavery? I don't know. We got Kamala. She, just in case Biden's term doesn't last, we got Kamala, who locked up so many of our people. You look at the people that these people marry, and it'll also tell you a lot about how they feel about you, especially if you've interacted with those type of people over the years. But we got to be honest here. Charlemagne said he's not voting for Biden. He's voting for Kamala. This is another slick way of saying I'm voting blue no matter what or no matter who. Charlemagne, I'm not voting for Biden. I'm not voting for another old angry white man or old white man. I'm voting for Kamala. Kamala is the vice president, dude. Her power comes in breaking votes in the Senate, basically. It is a token, what is the term, man? A figurehead position. It's merely a figurehead position. So, you know, we wanted to come on here today and touch on this issue about blaming our people if Biden loses. And definitely, man, yeah, I did forget to share this on Twitter. I see your comment. Oh, I forgot to share this thing on Twitter. But we streaming on Twitter, though. Matter of fact, we live streaming on Twitter right now. We live streaming on Facebook. But I still like to share the messages. I mean, the YouTube live stream on Twitter as well. So I'm going to leave y'all with the platform's motto. But before I do that, Tuesday, we're going to be on with ADOS California. We're going to be doing live political commentary. Y'all make sure y'all tune in. We got our own perspective and our own ideas based on our own political education that greatly differs from mainstream media. And y'all need to be listening to us, right? Particularly those people outside of, because we could bring anybody from the from in the American descendants of slavery audience. I mean, we could pick them from right out the chat. They could come right on and fit right into the conversation. So when I say that, people need to be listening to us. I'm talking about those outside of this particular circle. They need to be listening to us and not the mainstream media who's going to manipulate them, not a Charlemagne who's going to get somebody to agree and say, yeah, Charla, you right, man. I ain't voting for Biden. I'm voting for Kamala. And then you're going to go to the polls where it says, check the box that says Biden or Kamala, and you're going to check that box, which means you're voting for Biden. Stop the tomfoolery. But people get, they get duped like that by those people. Make sure y'all share this out, family. Look for us Tuesday. I don't know if we're going to be sharing our live stream that we're doing from ADOS California. I'm not sure yet, but either way, we're going to try to get that message out. If you're following us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, our links are in the description. Click on them, follow us so that when we do put the links and other information out, you'll get the link. So I'm going to leave you with our mottos, our platform's motto. Don't just fight the power, become the power. And then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.